In today's episode, I had the great privilege of interviewing Ken Machtaler. He is a former bank executive, high-tech startup CEO, 2 times martial arts world forms champion, Team Canada coach, and he served on several non-profit boards. He also holds a 5th degree black belt, certified yoga instructor, father and grandfather. And he has trained 12 athletes to world championships, and his goal is to help his clients to be the champion of their lives.
Yeah.
So, I think for the folks listening to the podcast, tell us a little bit about yourself. You've done a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, you've been through the trenches and back, around the block and back. So why don't you tell the folks a little bit about yourself? And how did you end up in coaching?
Well, let's start really go back, I'm 63 years old, so I've been around for a while. You could cut a tree and you can see the number of rings that they have on them, and I'm sure that I have the same. So I really led kind of a directionless life, I would say. It was a life that's kind of been, stuff gets handed to me, and I kind of take it as far as I feel that I needed to, and then I kind of lose interest. So, like from an early age, I wanted to just live in the woods. I bought books on how to, build a log cabin, how to survive in the wilderness, how to, and that was kind of my dream. And it was either that, and for some reason, it was either that or living in a penthouse apartment in the middle of New York City, which I'd never been to. So those were kind of my dreams. Is like either one, but I didn't want to be in between. And so I've tried a lot of different things. I was a hockey player. I had a promising hockey career, and then I suffered an injury when I was 19 playing junior hockey, and I tore my knee up really badly. In fact, they didn't think I'd be able to walk properly again because I had got 4 ligaments that hold the 2 bones together, and I had torn 3 of them completely.
Wow.
But luckily, they were pulled away from the bone, so a lot of it was just wiring the bone back. I lost a lot of cartilage in my knee when I was 19, so I went through, the rest of my life with that, a deteriorating knee, basically. I got into banking in my early 20s, and it wasn't something that I really aspired to be in, but I rose up through the ranks pretty quickly. In 12 years, I'd been promoted 13 times, and I started off, at the very bottom of the totem pole as a trainee, and then at the end of after about maybe 11 years, I was managing a portfolio of about $1 billion, and seeing, at one point over the productivity of over 500 people. And I just knew that wasn't me. Everybody else thought it was me, but inside I knew it wasn't me. And so I wanted to get back to my hometown of Victoria, and the bank wouldn't send me here because they thought, the vice president of our region came over and visited. And he said, Ken, we have plans for you. We'd like you to go up north and manage this
The familiar
branch.
story, yeah.
Yeah, so and I said, oh, no, I don't want to do that. So anyways, I ended up leaving there, doing a bunch of different things. I was a CEO of 3 startup high-tech companies right at the time you didn't want to be CEO of a startup companies. So right at 1999 to about 2001. And then I started martial arts training back early in the 90s. I'd actually done a little bit 1970s when I was 15. And back then it was just too hard. I just wanted to do what Bruce Lee could do overnight. And you actually had to put work in. So that was that. But yeah, I got serious in 1991 and I was doing it as a pastime. And then I injured my back. I was doing Aikido. I injured my back. I couldn't do the break falls anymore. So I transitioned to Okinawa karate and found that Okinawa karate had everything that I had in Aikido, and plus it had a lot more. And so I stayed with that, and I evolved from there. My teacher left Korea, and told me I had to take over our little studio. There was about 12 students, and I didn't want that to happen, but I took it over, and then we kind of grew organically. I wasn't trying to build what we call dojos, or 1,000 people, but I grew organically, and then I was challenged a bit to eat by an instructor I had, so I took that to heart, and I was kind of a natural gifted athlete. I didn't have to try really hard to do things that I did that. But I got this opportunity to go to Germany, and I competed there in 2005, and I won gold medals in empty hand forms and bladed weapons forms, and so from there I coached the Canadian National Martial Arts team for 9 years, and ran my studio, but I also realized that there was a lot more to karate than what I had actually experienced so far, and so I started searching and found that when it was in Okinawa, it had actually components of qigong built into it. All the Chinese medicine and everything was taught as part of the program back 100 years ago or 200 years ago, and I traced it further back to the shop, to where karate kind of originated, was from the Shaolin Temple, and then the Shaolin Temple received everything from India, and when I researched it more, I realized that what was brought to India was brought by a Buddhist monk. Came to teach meditation and Buddhism, but because of what he faced at the Shaolin Temple with the monks, he introduced physical exercising and self-defense techniques as part of what they needed in the temple. So from there, it just kind of spread throughout China and then other parts of Asia in different ways. So, but what I understood, and I've trained thousands of people. The people that I've had that have come from different parts of Asia, I always found it strange that they had this capacity to learn that my other students didn't have, and I didn't quite understand it. But as I got more into researching the background of karate and how intertwined it was with Buddhism, say, is I started to realize that they have these principles that they grow up with that we don't necessarily have, and they're nothing to do with karate. More to do with life and life skills and how you process information, how you deal with emotions. So they, because they don't have this, say, emotional baggage that they're carrying around with, they have a much more capacity to take things in and learn quicker. It wasn't that they were smarter than any of my students, but they learned it was almost like, if you're from Asia, martial arts were built just for you, but it wasn't really. It's just that because we experience these things with even like Asian students coming to Canada, they sell very well. Again, it's, have to look at it. People generally aren't smarter than each other, and you start to see that we have these things in our culture that kind of hold us back.
Right.
Prevent us from taking everything in. Right?
Yeah.
So, we build roadblocks. So when martial arts came over to, say, North America, and of course South Africa would be similar, Europe, because the Western culture, you would say, okay, we want those self-defense or fighting techniques, but we don't want your religion because we already have Christianity.
No.
So then because you don't accept those other things, then the health benefits and mind work and everything that goes with those faiths or those philosophies, they didn't come with us. And so this is what I kind of looked at, how can I build this back into my own my own personal journey, and also the journey of the studio itself. So I'm a long way around to your question.
That's
but
perfect.
I'm getting there.
That's perfect. That's interesting.
We're getting there. So where I am right now is more on, okay, how do I work some of these ancient aphorisms, findings, whatever you want to call them. I work that into my life, and how do we help other people with them? And so when I saw life coaching, I looked and I thought, wow, there's a lot of things there that could help me be a better yoga instructor or martial arts instructor. I'm also a yoga instructor as well. And so that's why I started taking it. And as I started doing it, I started thinking, man, there's a whole friggin' career here for me. So, and it was stuff that I was doing already. I mean, I've sat with people that make $1 million a year or more, who have like these issues that you just think like, why do you have this issue? You've got all this money, but it's true that, people, they have strengths, they have weaknesses, and usually our weaknesses are the ones, that we need help with. And we're not open to things because sometimes we're embarrassed, or sometimes, a lot of times I think with people, they're afraid that if they put time and effort into something that they need, that it's going to take away from something else and down. So making money, somebody might think, well, if I start doing this, my income's going down. If I start caring about people, I'm going to have to pay my employees more and give them more time off, and that's going to cut into the profits or whatever that happens to be. And it's absolutely not true. It works the other way, but in our culture, it's all about winning.
Right.
There is no room for win-win. It's like you win, you lose, you go back to the drawing board, so then you formulate a new plan so you can win again. It's just, that's, so it's just, and it's like our goal setting, if I get a new client, if I get a new car, my life's going to be better. You get the new car, and a week later, life's still the same. Or I have this relationship, it's going to change my life. And a year later, you're wanting out of that.
Right.
So it's, I think we tend to focus our attention in outside, everything outside. And of course, we don't take enough time inside. And we all know that we have to do that, but most of us don't know how to do that.
Right.
So that was really my journey, was to what I just keep asking, I keep going further. It's like, okay, but where did that come from?
Right.
Yeah, but where did that come from? And you keep going back and you can see, the stuff I'm talking about, or we talked about the other day, the Eightfold Path, that is like at least 5,000 years old. Book, I got the book out today. Here it is. It's like huge.
Wow.
And these are all poems, right? These are all poems that are translated to English from Sanskrit. But, it's just like, I'm never going to read this book. I've got it, but I'll never read it. Just like,
right.
I started reading one poem and it lost me. So, but the knowledge that comes from there, and then over the millennia, and then the centuries, at how and condensed to only a few things is just amazing to me. We have this framework that covers everything in life. We have this right at our fingertips, and yet we're still looking for other places, right?
Right. And it's this whole concept, right, of instant gratification that people got so used to, which is in a sense really just learned behavior, because that's what's going on around them, and because other people are doing it, they're just rushing along and do the same thing. And when you mentioned about people experiencing that there's something missing, that they just don't know how to fix it or what to do to get there, is really true, because I see that all the time as well, where the meaning that people attach to certain things, how distorted that actually is, right? The fact that they think if you buy a car, that's going to make them happy. And in a way, we know, you and I know actually how easy it is to fix that. You don't have to go through the trouble of buying a car or all of those things to figure out certain things about your life, which is actually fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's kind of where I am. I'm sort of, I've figured out, what the framework is for me. And I'm not going to, a lot of, I won't quote the books or the people or anything like that, but a lot of people present things like they're brand new, which really bugs me, because they don't give credit to where credit is due. But there's so much information available in ancient wisdom that, if you just open to it, if you just explore it a bit, you realize that everything that we're talking about is all there. Already been done. Just, not in these circumstances today, but, do you think the bubonic plague or the Spanish flu is any different than COVID-19 to the people at the time? They all had to stop what they were doing, the way they were doing it, and they had to, hunk down and take care of themselves. Still, people died. So I think it's we have all these lessons, and we still think that there's new lessons to be learned. And I there's only two things for sure. We were born and we're going to die.
Yes.
If you don't accept those, then guess what?
You're in for a ride.
You just missed the whole point, right? So everything in between is like it's a gift, right? It's a journey. That's what life is about. It's about living life, not about all these things.
Yeah.
And I think what you're talking about is people, all of us, we don't know how to separate ourselves from those things. But I can tell you, take that Eightfold Path, it's got you have all the answers in you. It just helps you unlock them, that's all. And it helps you manage them and keep focused. It involves work. It's not, you don't wake up one day and say, wow, the Eightfold Path, I've got the Eightfold Path. Now the rest of my life's going to be, but what it does do is it has the capacity to help you change the physical structure over time so that you process things differently. And just one of the areas I know right now that people struggle with is emotional control. People can't sit still. Gotta go. There's always something like, I'm worried. If I don't do this person will be unhappy, and blah 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 blah. So all our energy is focused.
Right.
And so that one little shift is like being able to take that energy from flowing outward to flowing inward. And when you flow inward, then you have that opportunity to start focusing on you and really discovering, like, at the very core of your existence, who you truly are. I'm not saying that from a, a wooey perspective. It's just like you only need a certain number of things. You just need to eat enough food.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be any certain type of food, other than it has to contain all the nutrients that you need to make your body work and function and you only need a certain shelter over your head to protect yourself from sun, rain, weather, whatever it happens to be. Wild animals in Africa. We have cougars walking around in our city here. They're mountain lions, but they you don't see them, but they come into town, and then there's a big alert. There was one about 1 block from my house, and
oh my goodness.
Somebody spotted it, and the police came and they checked the tracks. But it's not like having a big lion.
Luckily, ours are in captivity or somewhere. So it's unless they escape, which has happened. But
then everybody's
everybody's pretty safe.
But so you're but when you look at it, we got the food, shelter, clothing. You need clothing. I mean, you can have like, I'm sure there's no limit on the amount you could pay for a dress or a suit or anything like that. Or you can buy them secondhand, or you can walk around in panties and a bra or undershorts or whatever. It doesn't. Really, clothing is just to protect us from keep us warm and protect us from elements. So and then we have transportation. We have our 2 legs. Someone takes your car away, you still got ride your bike. If you take your bike away, you can still walk. You can't walk, you crawl. And if you can't crawl, you just lay down and die.
That's so true what you're saying. I'm thinking back to the start of our lockdown and the start of COVID and the impact. We were between my husband and myself, we both have our own businesses, and we were pretty severely impacted by that. And I remember clearly at that time, and I want us maybe to talk a little bit about meditation as well, but at that time, I started to went deeper into that journey of self-awareness. And that was one of the first things I taught myself in order to not be anxious or in order to not be caught up in anything that hasn't even happened yet. Was this whole thing about, I have my family with me, check. We have a place to sleep tonight, check. We have eaten today, check. And that was all we needed. And it is interesting that you mentioned that, because I think in a way, you go, if you can get to that point where you are not anxious about the future and not oppressed, right? You're really present in the moment. You can, all of the other stuff doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter, because what you have now and what you can do with this moment now is what's important.
So, so you always think like if there's no right or wrong, because right or wrong is really other people's, or even your own limits on things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So right or wrong doesn't, something that was right today might be wrong tomorrow. Something that's wrong today might be right tomorrow. One person says, thou shalt not kill. The next person says it's okay to kill if you're a policeman or you're in the military.
Yeah.
So it's just, I think it's, that all these things, if you take all those things away, take away what your parents want, what your husband wants, what your kids want, what anybody else wants, and you just look at yourself. That's the person that you need to be 24/7. And if you can't be that person 24/7, then you're going to live in misery,
Right?
Because you're going to be missing out on. So, and I did this. I had a friend, and we were both kind of a few years ago. We're kind of at a place where I just ended my second marriage, and then she was kind of her guy, but there's a little bit of age between us, so we just we talked a lot. But anyways, what we did was we looked at like, okay, like why do people kind of get that, right? And I think of my last marriage was I said, you need something. I've got it. It's a match. It's a match made me happy, right? I got everything. I never for once looked at myself and said, what do I need? And because I didn't do that, I actually didn't know what I need. And then over time, what happens is you start to, this self part, you start to feel not being fed.
Right.
And you're giving, and you're not getting back. You don't know why. And it's because, well, you never made it clear that you needed things back. You never gave the other person an opportunity in the beginning to say, well, I can't give those things, or I can give you those things, or that's important. So I think this is really important to know who you are, because when you go into a relationship has to be a third party. You're not growing together. You're growing yourselves,
right?
And you're growing in a relationship. That's something that you come back to, but you still got to be able to go back. Us men like to go to our caves. Don't cave, right? Don't come in or the dragon will breathe. You get hot breath. But anyways, everybody has to be able to withdraw to themselves and really to check in and say, this isn't quite working for me. This is why, you can adjust your relationship, right? But most people don't say anything and just, okay, I'll give it, I'll get back. They keep giving, they don't get back. And then eventually it's just like, you're so far apart that there is no going back. Right? So anyway, so that's, I really think that this piece about yourself, really knowing yourself. And it's unfortunate that in our culture, that we aren't introduced to that concept early on in life. And one of the reasons that we aren't is that probably 99.9% of the adults that are mentoring us or teaching us, coaching us, they haven't experienced them
Right.
themselves, so they can't do it. They might say, hey, let's do mindful meditation for 5 minutes. Let's close our eyes and just make our body still. But they really don't know what happens if you're in meditation for 10 minutes or 15 minutes or 20 minutes or 30 minutes or 2 hours. They don't know what happens in mind to your experience, and they don't know. They don't know how to bring those levels of conscious awareness into their own life. They can't do it with somebody else.
And even with the word mindfulness, it's a word that's being thrown around so much. I think 70% of the people don't even realize. Oh,
this is mine here. This is mindfulness. Keeps me awake. I got cheated out of my coffee this morning. I had an early Zoom call.
Oh.
And then I didn't get my second cup of coffee, and so this is it.
Oh, well, but it's better than nothing, though, right? So, but around the mindfulness is like a lot of people just use the term very loosely without even really realizing it's like that consciousness that you're talking about, what it means, but not just what it means, but what it can do for you in your life.
Yeah, mindfulness is it's a word. Like you say, it's being thrown around. I was attracted to it.
Yeah.
And then I realized that, the people that were teaching about it weren't actually mindful. They didn't really know, which is unfortunate, because what happens is that I think this is a lot of in a lot of my journey is I get things so far. I follow somebody who I believe is like, wow, this person has got it. And then as you start going, you realize they don't have it all because they're human, but they're trying to cover up the part that they don't have instead of being open. I think this is really, when it comes to mindfulness, most people, if you look at mindfulness-based stress reduction, I've done 5 courses related to 3 MBSRs myself, and 2 other courses that were mindfulness-based, stress reduction related, and one of them was the University of California, Berkeley. It's called The Power of Awareness, and it was the free course for their mindfulness-based stress reduction teacher training, which was a 2-year program. And I went through that, and I just realized that, that most of the stuff is people are just making up. They're just filling up curriculums to make money from it. It's not. So I created my own mindfulness-based stress reduction course using guidelines, of other courses that I've taken. But there's so much depth there that, it's not enough to, even in an 8-week course, to teach you what mindfulness really is. And but the one thing I was going to say, the one thing that you get out of that course is that 30 minutes of meditation a day for 2 months will change the physical structure of your brain.
Right.
And that's been proven. That's scientifically proven. So that's why that course is so valuable. But I can tell you that most people don't, after they've done the course, they just kind of go back. And if you, it's like, I think I heard it was like 96% of people that lose weight will lose it back. We'll gain it back, right? And maybe even a little more. So this is the same thing, I think, with mindfulness. You have people that are the experts, but they're only the experts at telling you what to do. They're not necessarily experts at doing it themselves. I think, like in fitness, if you're a fitness instructor, you're not running like I run 11-12% body fat at age 63 for a man. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
And I've trained people that have maintained, like women that have maintained 12%. They were young, they didn't want to go that for certain reasons, that affects their physiology. But if you're not keeping that maintaining body fat, how can you be telling people how to eat?
True.
Same with meditation. If you're not meditating every day for at least a half hour,
Right.
then how can you be telling people, hey, you should be doing this?
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like, I know what it is. You should do it, but I don't have the time to do it.
Yeah.
That's the same cliche, right?
Yes.
From everyone. So so mindfulness, I think, is it's just a word because it could help our society. But the real thing is understanding, like, did you take the neuro-linguistic programming? Yeah. So in neuro-linguistic programming, you learn how to dissect.
Yeah.
So if you dissect mindfulness, then you'll see that there's all these different components that make up mindfulness. And it's not just the one thing of, like, taking 5 minutes and listening to Tony Robbins do a guided meditation. That's not mindfulness.
Yeah.
That's hypnosis.
And I also think that many people do not realize, when it comes to things of the mind and emotional things, that these are all things that need to be practiced. So people are willing to put months into the planning of a holiday and everything they need to plan, and they might even commit to going to the gym for months, but they neglect the mental aspect and the emotional aspect of mindfulness and of their own self-awareness. And they think if they go to a weekend retreat, right, they are fixed, and they go home and cannot understand why it wasn't sustainable. They've wasted their money. They buy your course and say, oh, this is rubbish, doesn't work. But you have to practice it every single day for it to manifest in your life.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think this is, what we're looking at is what does your own personal practice look like? It comes back to yourself. Why do we do things? Why do I maintain a certain body fat that I do? Well, because it's healthy. It has nothing to do with anybody else. It's me. I've had people even try to, they try to pull you down, right? You don't have to do that. You don't have to be overfed or anything like that. Well, it's not being. My dad died of a massive heart attack at the age of 65. He didn't look after himself. He had a stroke when he was 50. I don't have any of the symptoms he had in his 40s, 50s, or 60s. Last time I went to the doctor, he said, Ken, he says, I can't believe it. You've got the heart rate and the pulse of a teenager. And it's true. But I'm not doing that for anybody other than me.
Right.
Because when I get up every day, I don't want to feel like crap. I get up I wake up between 4 and 5 every morning. I don't need an alarm clock. Today I slept in.
Wow.
After midnight, I was like around 6:30. But anyways, that's very rare for me.
Yeah.
But when I get up, when my eyes open in the morning, I just can't wait to get out.
Yeah.
No, I just want to experience life, and I have to meditate. That's the first thing I do in the morning before I start anything, because if I don't do my half hour then, I probably will not do it.
Yeah.
Other times, right? Yeah.
True.
So that's the, but those are things that you give to yourself, not to anybody else.
Mm.
And it gives you your fuel.
Yeah.
It keeps you energized. It keeps you, no, it doesn't matter. It's funny. When I went through my last divorce, I have to tell you, my ex-wife will laugh about this, but so we split up, and I was okay with it.
Yeah.
And she was like, "You're okay? I've got all these men that chase me, and you're just okay with it?" I says, "Well, yeah." I said, I says, you don't want to put the time in. It's not going to work, right? But it was really fascinating because I've been through my first divorce. I've been through rejection by my kids at times. I've been through the death of my dad. I on major surgery a couple of times. So there's lots of things in my life that I've had to deal with, but this was just like, it was like, I'm sad. Now, what are the opportunities? And it just happened like that.
Yeah.
And it just like, and I filled my mind up with opportunities.
Yeah.
And it was before I did the coaching, and I won't say it's before I was introduced to neurolinguistic programming, because I first read about that I think in 1988 when Tony Robbins' book came out, Unlimited Power, and I read that one. And that was my first taste of that. But it just, when you know yourself, it doesn't matter who else is in the world or what you have.
Right.
Like, it's like what you make of it.
Right. That's powerful, because it's almost this this thing about, actually, after we spoke also last week a little bit about this, there was a moment this week where I caught myself rather feeling bad because I'm feeling good. And I realized it's because we are living in this society where we are learned that and taught, kids are being taught you have to, it's like you have to feel bad, or you have to go through suffering. If you don't suffer enough, you're not acknowledging something enough. Or there's this cliche about suffering, and people get comfortable with that suffering. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we all know, like the neurochemicals in your brain, you can literally get addicted to that suffering. And people don't realize that. They think they've been dealt this card and they have to suffer, and this is how the rest of their life's going to be, and it doesn't need to be that way.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I think what we're trying to get at probably is that with coaching, back to that coaching aspect of it, is that when you find things that are working for you, you see how much suffering there is in the world. And I don't mean just the kids that are in underdeveloped countries that are suffering, but I mean right in our own backyards. It doesn't matter. I live in Canada. We have probably one of the best places to live in the world, but people are suffering. People suffer. They make up all these things that they need to be, and then when they can't get them, they feel like they've like they're a failure.
Yeah,
it's no different than a relationship.
Right.
I did a little research on relationships, and the average relationship, depending on what study you look at, lasts around 2.8 to 4 years. That's all relationships, right? So marriages and dating, and then, but the average marriage globally only lasts 12 years.
Oh, that's even, I almost want to say that's not even primary school.
Yeah.
Going through primary school with your kids.
So when you look at a relationship, but what do we always do? We're going to marry the person that we're going to spend the rest of our life with. And it's like, it's a fairy tale. It's just like, you got to know that. You got to know these statistics. You got to know that the longest average marriage is in Italy. The United States is like 8.2 years. It's like, it's not very long.
Right.
I think it was 5 years. I was like, wow. I was surprised. Yeah, I thought in some of the Arab countries that you could get divorced, but obviously they do
I
it
use the system
more, regularly than we do. But anyways, I think what I'm trying to say is that when you look at a relationship, you look at it like, okay, we're building something, but it might not last. So saying goodbye needs to be part of every relationship that you believe, and you have to be prepared to say that. And I think before you say goodbye, and there needs to be a lot of dialogue,
Right.
to try to help grow it.
Yeah.
But obviously, if you have too many things that you don't connect on, like let's say you like Porsches and I like Nissan Rogues or something like that, and then we're just going to fight on all those minor things. You can't build a life together.
Yeah.
Right? If you can only have one car, I mean, cars, okay. But it's just, places that you live or things like that. If someone's got a dream of like a mansion on a hill and you don't care where you live, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Unless there's some education and compromise in there somewhere on the life, not on yourself, on the life. And then people have to go deep on why they actually want these things, right? Like, why do you want to live with that mansion? Why do you want nothing? Is that truly what you need? And if it is, why? Why do you need it? So I think relationships, that's definitely an area that really, I think, when you really look at yourself, when you really look at what you need, and you don't let anything, including someone else, deter from those basics, then you have a much better chance of being in a relationship.
Right.
The relationship is true. They're true. You're true. Right? The relationship is a third party. It's like something you build together.
Yeah. Comes back to that self-awareness, right? And if both people have it, both people will grow, and then they can create that third-party relationship, something new that they can create together.
Yeah. So I can share this Eightfold Path with you. I don't know. I've got an infographic.
That would be great. So what I can do is, if you want to put it somewhere where we can put a link in the description of the video, and then maybe a link of your course as well. And I'll get that from you, and then we can leave it in the description for the folks to find it, and they can see what you're about and what the course is about. But I want to thank you for some great insights tonight. I really appreciate it. I think there's a lot of thoughts, a lot of afterthoughts, almost, I want to say, that's going to come out of this meeting for the folks that's listening to it. And for anybody who wants to reach out to you, we'll make sure your details are in the description as well. But thanks again for your time tonight.
Well, thank you.